Welcome once again to How to Relate to Anyone. Here is Dr. Orv Owens.
Afternoon or morning or whatever it is where you are right now. We're looking at a subject right now that is something that's a moment-by-moment lifestyle. So this is going to apply to you whether you're using it or abusing it. And you have to make that decision. And that's what we're talking about is decision making. Decisions determine your destiny. And that's been true all your life. Everything you have ever achieved started with a thought, and then that thought was matured into a decision, and the decision turned into some responsibility and some actions, reactions, some creativity, some productivity. Everything starts with a decision. Your decisions determine your destiny. And so what we're going to look at today is that decision-making process and how you can use it rather than abuse it, because we tend to abuse it a great deal as human beings. We make decisions that we regret, decisions that are costly, decisions that are hurtful, and all of those are regrettable, but you can't undo them. So what we want to do is go into decision making with a process or some type of order, so we're making right decisions that we can marry and get excited about and throw our heart over the bar and make things happen. And that takes right thinking, and right thinking takes right decision making. So any of the five senses reacting to a situation causes a decision to be made. If it tastes good or it doesn't taste good, if it is too hot or too cold, all of those five senses are telling us signals, and the signals cause us to make a decision. And then comes a reaction or an action, and in many cases both. And so let's go through the five senses real quickly. Seeing, when I like it or I don't like it, that's really pretty. Whoa, is that ever ugly? We make these kind of decisions moment by moment without even almost thinking about it. Everything we see, we're making a decision about it. When you meet somebody new, first thing you do is you make a decision about their appearance. And I won't go with that because there's so many appearances out there these days. You can see just about anything and everything, and a few things you don't want to see, in fact. But you know, the eye gate takes in 72,000 characters per minute. And so it's going like this, and you're making decisions about every one of those images. Every one of those images carry with it a value. Tasting, does it taste good or a little sour or a little whatever? In eating or in drinking or whatever, we're making those decisions, and we're making them moment by moment. And often there are things that we taste and we like it, and then we eat or drink too much of it, and all of a sudden we don't like it all that much anymore. All of a sudden it's lost its appeal. Because we can drown ourselves in just about anything, and just before we pass out in drowning, we decide we probably shouldn't be in this deep swimming hole. And so it's true also with taste. And tasting things, you can overindulge. When I was senior in high school, my brother-in-law, who was not my brother-in-law yet, but he was visiting us from college with my sister, and we decided to eat a gallon of ice cream. Not eat some ice cream out of the gallon, eat the whole thing. And we've set a contest, who could eat the most ice cream. And we finished it between the two of us, a whole gallon, and we were both sick all night. I couldn't eat ice cream for 2 years. 2 years. Now, I love ice cream today, But boy, it sure wiped me out of ice cream. And each of you have a few things like that you've overindulged with, and you said, no, I don't want to eat any of that again. Or, taste is a great thing, but it also can be abused like any of our five senses. Touching, the word touching carries with a certain amount of sentimental attachments. That's touching. You're touching me. You're touching my heart. I feel your pain. All those touching things. But the actual physical touching, something's hot or not hot enough or too cold or whatever, one of the five senses, and we're making decisions based upon that touch. It's also true with hearing. Listening and hearing. I've studied music over the years, and hearing is vitally important in carrying a tune. You have to hear the melody, and you have to hear whether you're on pitch or not, and all those things. And the more you exercise any of these five senses, the more aware you become of them, and the more intense they become, and the more equipped you are to deal with them. And of course, smell. We all have had those opportunities to smell a skunk or burnt rubber or whatever, and all I have to do is say that, and you can sense it. Our five senses control our thought process. They make us like or dislike, want more, want less. And so in making decisions, you need to realize that our senses are feeding us information. Our mind is working constantly and is going to build on or tear down based upon our reaction to the five senses. So we do things that cause us to be attracted to certain people because of the five senses. Isn't she beautiful? Isn't he handsome? Wow, I like that hairdo. People. We meet people and we make decisions. First decision normally is, are they appealing to the eye? And then we listen to their voice and their voice tones, and is that appealing? And then do they have a firm handshake? And that's touch. And some people in some cultures just hug you. Some hold you at distance. Some bow. All kinds of cultures, and in each case, our mind is working with the five senses and feeding us information that causes us to be attracted to, or distracted, or actually turned off by. So, you're impressed with or impressed either positive or negative with everything that enters your five senses. We make decisions, and those decisions determine how we're going to act and react in that given situation, how we're going to act and react toward that person, how we're going to act and react toward that behavior or that activity or that thing, or whatever the thing is. One of the things that's kind of a gray area out there is personality. They have a pleasing personality or not so pleasing. And in most cases, personality is in direct relationship to our own personality. We base our judgment on, are they much like us? Do they act and react like us in a given situation? Or are they kind of strange? They kind of, they do strange things. Those are decisions we make. Understanding the decision-making process and controlling it determines how successful you are in your building of relationships, and your building of relationships determine how successful you are in any endeavor and any goal you set for yourself. And so it's vitally important that you be aware of how you use your five senses rather than abuse them, because you can often allow one of the five senses to trigger a negative that will cause you to not pursue a relationship that could be a very profitable relationship or a very positive relationship, something we would really enjoy. When we are learning something new, new information coming into our mind, and we're making decisions, and those decisions are will determine whether we retain that information and use it in a positive way, or whether it goes in one ear and out the other. Or as an old friend of mine used to say, in one ear and out the next, which I thought was kind of humorous. I visualized a series of ears in one ear and out the next, and then the next. You understand, that's kind of my type of thinking. I like new challenges, or I'm just not very good at that, is a decision. Give me a chance and I'll show you what I can do, or I'm not too excited about taking the lead. I'm a great support person. You've made those kind of decisions where you didn't want to take full responsibility because what if it fails? I'm going to look bad. But if I support somebody and it doesn't go well, we gave it the good old college try, but we don't carry all the responsibility. And so people run from responsibility, and the way they run from responsibility is they make decisions not to assume responsibility. Well, even when you choose to not assume responsibility, you have taken on a responsibility, and that is to not do it. So every thought is a decision, and because every thought is a decision, we are responsible for our thought processes, our decision making. And so it's vitally important that we give it some thought and control our thoughts, control our thinking, control our decision making. And keeping an open mind is a real challenge, because we tend to make decisions based upon past experiences or something we've heard, and instead of doing a little bit of open-minded research before we close our mind to something. It's always a good thing to keep the mind open as long as we can, and that way we're getting more information in and making right decisions based upon right thinking. Proactive thinking means I'm choosing to look for something positive in everything that happens in my life. What can I make out of this that's going to add to who I am, add to what I can achieve in life, add to what I can do in the way of touching other lives. Because every experience, everything you do and everything that comes your way and everything that happens to you can benefit people if you use it rather than abuse it. And the abuse is tucking it away, and I'm never going to try that again. I'll never do that again. When we're never going to do something again, it's a bad decision, because we'll never learn and never become successful in that area of our life. It's vitally important that we keep an open mind. And true failure is when we give up, quit. As long as we're still trying, we're not failures. And I have found over a lifetime that if you just stick with something, keep going at it, ultimately you learn something. Ultimately, you become proficient. Ultimately, you're looked at as a professional in that field. I do oil painting and acrylics, and I mean, my first pictures, you would have laughed. But I've had people hanging my pictures on their walls these days and it's just a hobby. But am I an artist? I don't know if I'm an artist. I have learned to paint with oils and acrylics. I'm a singer. I've sang in my first quartet at age 14, and I've been singing in quartets ever since. I've traveled the world singing, and people actually paid us money to hear us sing, so we had that measure of success. And And nobody invited me to sing in a quartet, so I formed my own. You know, you don't wait until somebody invites you. Make things happen. When you make things happen, then you can make it happen in the way you want it to happen. You're in control. Always looking for personal growth and personal development, because personal growth and personal development is a decision. The smallest element of thought is the decision, and every thought either builds you up or tears you down, either adds to or takes away from, makes you more proficient or causes you to be hesitant, hold back, and never learn. Are you the first to volunteer when opportunity comes your way? People who volunteer normally are people who are not afraid to make a decision and make the decision right. You can't always make the right decision, but you can make decisions right. If you work at it hard enough and long enough, you can ultimately work your way through the problems and whatever, and ultimately come out on the other end with success. As long as you don't do the once, twice, and 3 times for good measure and then give up, which most people do. If you stay with something long enough, you'll be successful. I'd rather try and fail than fail to try. I've said that for a lot of years, and it's one of my slogans that I use. I'd rather try and fail rather than fail to try. Because if I try and fail, I've learned something. I learned how not to do something, for one thing. One of the fastest things you learn when you fail is, let's not do it that way again. There's got to be a better way. But it, as Thomas Edison said, it just marks off another thing to not try again. And that's how we learn, by trial and error. The determining factor in your personal development, in who you have become and who you are becoming, is decision making. What kind of decisions are you making? How much authority are you assuming? How much responsibility are you assuming? Both of those go hand in hand. You can't have authority without responsibility, and responsibility always carries with it a certain amount of authority. So determining how much authority you're going to take for personal development in decision making is going to determine how productive you are in life, what you accomplish. You just don't know what you can do until you try it. Very seldom are we really surprised with the outcome, because we have a whole lot of trial and error, trial and error, and trial and error until we finally get it right. We surprise our friends and family when they say, wow, I didn't know you could do that. Oh yeah, always could. Actually tried and failed many times, but finally got it successful. Turning your natural abilities into capabilities takes taking a risk, and the risk is taking on responsibility for something you've never taken responsibility for before. So if you haven't already taken responsibility for something that you've not had responsibility for, then you have not found the joy of creativity and productivity. And that's where it comes from. If you could do what you really want to do, the thing that you've always said, one of these days, would you be willing to take the risk that goes with that? Because that's what happens. You have to take the risk. All decision making is risk taking. And with risk comes some failures, comes some mistakes, comes some errors. Sometimes really bad errors. Sometimes very costly errors. I've had those in my lifetime. But I've also had the joy of throwing my heart over the bar and going for it and seeing success. And that takes just doing it. As Nike says, just do it. So the challenge is to not be concerned with what people are going to think, but what you believe you want to achieve, and then do it. In our next program, we're going to focus on the value system, which controls who you are as a person and your own personal growth, and how to challenge yourself to be in a constant growth posture.